Adelaide's first memory of her grandmother's house was the faint smell of lavender and old books. Even though her grandmother, Doris Mahoney, had always kept the drapes open and the hallways tidy, the grand Victorian home felt permanently cloaked in a hushed gloom, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something. After grandmother's passing, 13-year-old Adelaide inherited a curious and chilling part of that old estate, a collection of antique dolls. Adelaide's mother insisted they were just harmless keepsakes, but Adelaide suspected there was something more. Adelaide stood in front of the antique glass cabinet on her first night at the house, and the dolls stared back at her with empty glass eyes. Each was dressed in frilly outfits from different eras, ruffled skirts, velvet waistcoats, and discolored ribbons. One had a cracked cheek. Another had hair that looked like it had once been stolen from a real child. "You sure you're okay, honey?" her mother asked, gently touching her shoulder. Adelaide shrugged. "I guess, but they kinda weird me out." Her mother offered a small laugh. "They're antiques, Adelaide. People pay good money for these. Grandma always loved her collection. She'd be happy you're taking care of them now." That night, Adelaide thought she heard a whispering sound drifting through the hallway. She told herself it was the wind or maybe the old pipes. Still, her heart thumped hard against her chest. She lay under the covers, eyes squeezed shut, and tried to imagine she was anywhere but in the old Victorian, alone with hundreds of glassy stairs. In the days that followed, Adelaide's unease only grew. She'd wake to find dolls in different positions than she remembered leaving them. A doll that had been facing the window would somehow be looking at her bed when morning came. Tiny footprints, smaller than any adult's, but too defined to be a simple scuff, speckled the dusty floor near the cabinet. One afternoon, a friend from school, Daryl, stopped by. He paced around the living room, eyeing the tall shelves. "Man, you weren't kidding," he said, forcing a grin. "These things are kind of creepy." Adelaide nodded. "Something's not right with them. I keep hearing sounds at night. It's like they're moving around on their own." Daryl's face paled. "Yo, don't joke like that. My grandma used to say that spirits can attach themselves to dolls. Maybe you should get rid of them." "I can't. Mom would go nuts if I touched them. And they were grandma's. I feel like I owe it to her to keep them safe, even if they freak me out." They wandered upstairs, leaving the collection behind. But Adelaide could have sworn she heard a faint giggle echo along the corridor. Later that night, Adelaide stirred awake. Her room was silent except for the creaking floorboards. Then she heard it again, the soft pat, 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 pat of footsteps, far too light to be her mother's. She held her breath, listening. The floor squeaked right outside her door. She scrambled to her feet, heart pounding, and turned the knob. Nothing. The hall was empty. Yet, she felt something watching from the darkness. A cold breath of air seemed to drift past her. She inched her way toward the living room, compelled by both fear and curiosity. The glow of a street lamp outside spilled through the windows, giving enough light to see the cabinet. The door was ajar, and one of the dolls had fallen to the floor. Adrenaline surged through Adelaide, and her hand flew to her mouth to stifle a scream. The porcelain face had a new chip along its chin, and a raspy whisper wafted from somewhere behind her. She spun around, heart nearly bursting. Nothing there. The house was silent, yet it seemed alive with invisible watchers. "Stop messing with me," she hissed, voice trembling. She wasn't even sure who she was talking to, or what. She quickly placed the doll back on its perch, slammed the cabinet door shut, and ran back to her bedroom. The next day, Adelaide told her mother everything. She described the footsteps, the strange new chips on the porcelain cheeks, and the chilling whispers. "Adelaide," her mother said firmly, "you've been having nightmares. This house is old and it makes sounds at night." She tried to sound rational, but the flicker of unease in her eyes told Adelaide she wasn't entirely convinced. "I've been under a lot of stress with the funeral arrangements, and you're probably feeling that tension too." Adelaide scowled. "I know what I heard, Mom. The dolls aren't just—" She trailed off, feeling silly. But she refused to let it go. "Look, maybe we can move them out of the living room or something." Her mother sighed. "Your grandmother cherished those dolls. Let's just leave them alone for now." After a moment's hesitation, she looks at Adelaide and says, "Okay, if it'll make you feel better, let's put them down in the basement." That afternoon, they carefully packed the dolls into boxes and lugged them downstairs. Adelaide felt a wave of relief, as if some oppressive weight had lifted. Once sealed away in the basement, the house felt lighter. Or so she thought. Around midnight, Adelaide heard what sounded like scrabbling from beneath the floorboards. She pressed her ear to the floor and heard faint giggles, followed by a light tapping. She hurried to her mother's room in a panic. "Mom, please wake up. I'm hearing them in the basement. It's the dolls." Her mother woke with a start. "Adelaide, it's late and this nonsense has got to stop. You're driving yourself crazy." They crept downstairs together, flipping on every light. The basement door stood wide open, though Adelaide was certain they had closed it. At the bottom of the steps, the boxes lay scattered. Several were overturned, their flaps flung aside. Dolls in various states of disarray lined the floor, and their eyes glinted, capturing the weak glow of the single bulb above. One doll stood upright, leaning against the wall as if it had walked there on its own. Her mother gasped, "What in the world?" Just then, they heard a sharp click behind them. The basement door slammed shut on its own, leaving them in near darkness. Adelaide's scream caught in her throat as she spotted a movement near her feet. One of the dolls was crawling toward her, legs stiff and mechanical, with its arms moving like a spider's. Her mother panicked and kicked the doll aside. Its porcelain face cracked as it rolled across the floor. The other dolls seemed to shudder in reaction to the violence, their tiny limbs and bodies twitching. "Adelaide, get up the stairs! Now!" her mother commanded. They rushed the door, yanking on the handle until it finally gave way. They practically collapsed into the hallway, breathless and terrified. Panicked, Adelaide's mother called their family friend, an antique appraiser named Mr. Talbot, who had known Doris for many years. He arrived the next morning, looking skeptical but curious. "Your grandmother traveled the world collecting these dolls," he explained to Adelaide, walking gingerly into the basement. "She told me a story once about a set of them she found in an old French chateau. Supposedly, they were made by a craftsman who dabbled in the occult. They were rumored to be cursed." Adelaide's mother's face paled. "Are you telling me these things can actually move on their own?" Mr. Talbot shrugged, but his voice shook a bit. "All I know is that Doris was protective of them. She warned me never to handle them without her around." A wave of fear washed over Adelaide. Had she unknowingly released something by moving the dolls? She thought about the times she'd touched them, rearranged them. "Maybe we should just destroy them," she suggested quietly. Her mother nodded, fear etched into her face. "I think that might be best. We can't stay here with these things." Mr. Talbot looked uncertain but didn't object. They spent the rest of the day dragging the dolls out to the sprawling backyard. Adelaide's mother called a friend with a pickup truck, planning to haul the entire collection to be burned at a scrapyard far from the house. Just as they loaded the last box, a fierce thunderstorm rolled in. Rain soaked the ground, making a bonfire at the scrapyard impossible. They decided to temporarily store the dolls in the old tool shed until the weather passed. That night, the storm raged against the walls of the house. Wind rattled the windows and lightning cast skeletal shadows across the rooms. Adelaide lay in bed, wide awake, flinching at every thunderclap. She thought she heard a tapping against her window. She peered outside, and in a flash of lightning, she saw a silhouette. One of the dolls perched on the windowsill, its small hand pressed to the glass. Adelaide screamed, stumbling back. By the time her mother and Mr. Talbot reached her room, the sill was empty. Only faint droplets of water marked the spot. Mr. Talbot gripped her shoulders, eyes wide. "Are you sure? We locked the shed." Adelaide swallowed hard. "They're not normal." They never were. Something snapped in Adelaide's mind that night. She'd had enough. She was tired of living in fear, tired of feeling something twisted lurked around every corner. Grabbing a flashlight, she left the house and ran into the storm. Her mother and Mr. Talbot chased after her, calling her name. Rain lashed at their faces and soaked their clothes as they all raced towards the shed. She reached the tool shed well ahead of her mother and Mr. Talbot. She flung open the door and shone the light inside. The boxes were empty. All of the dolls sat in a circle on the muddy floor, their tiny mouths parted as if in mid-sentence, their glass eyes reflecting the beam of her flashlight. They looked like they were waiting for her. A voice inside her head, soft and cunning, whispered words she couldn't understand, but felt compelled to listen to. She staggered back as one of the dolls raised its arm. Its painted porcelain mouth emitted a grotesque hiss that formed into a shaky, childlike whisper.
"Join us, Adelaide."
She froze, terror gripping her. Then Mr. Talbot and her mother rushed into the shed. The dolls spun their heads in unison, focusing on the intruders. Without warning, an eerie laugh bubbled up from their motionless lips. "Back away!" Mr. Talbot yelled as he swung a shovel at the circle of dolls, smashing several. Shards of porcelain scattered, and for an instant a keening wail vibrated through the air, so piercing Adelaide and her mother had to cover their ears. Lightning flashed again, revealing something swirling, a distorted shape rising from the broken remains. It looked like a mass of swirling black smoke, or maybe twisted shadows. With the howl of the storm outside, the swirling darkness dissipated, leaving only shattered porcelain. The surviving dolls slumped over in place, as if the dark presence that had been animating them was gone. Adelaide's mother grabbed her arm. "We're leaving right now." Mr. Talbot nodded, glancing around with wild eyes. "I'll help you burn the rest tomorrow." "This can't go on." They hurried back into the house, exhausted and soaked. Adelaide trembled in her mother's arms, but a strange relief rushed through her. She felt lighter, as though the darkest part of the curse had been shattered along with the porcelain. If only she'd known how wrong she was. As they calmed themselves in the living room, Mr. Talbot carried in the last battered box of broken dolls. "I'll keep these locked up overnight, and in the morning, we'll get rid of them all. No matter what." Adelaide offered him a faint smile. "Thank you," she whispered. But when Mr. Talbot turned away, Adelaide saw it, a small crack creeping up his neck. She blinked, certain she was imagining things. Then his head jerked slightly, as if pulled by invisible strings. He let out a groan, stumbling forward. His lips moved, yet the voice that emerged sounded eerily like the same childlike whisper. "Hush, child," it rasped. Adelaide's mother screamed, but it was too late. Mr. Talbot's eyes glowed with an inhuman sheen, and a manic grin spread across his face. In that moment, Adelaide understood the horrifying truth. The malevolent spirit hadn't been destroyed. It had simply found a new host. The last thing Adelaide remembered was Mr. Talbot lunging toward her, his hands moving with unnatural stiffness, fingers splayed like porcelain doll joints. The storm raged outside, lightning revealing his twisted smile as he whispered, "Now, you're ours forever." A flash of lightning and a clap of thunder swallowed her final scream.